What's going on today, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Plug and Police. I'm your host, Massive Bundle. Today we'll be reviewing a massive bundle, a complete 14 bundles. You may notice I'm about 14 weeks late to doing this video, and that's because there are a lot of plugins in this, and libraries, and expansions, and there's too much shit. Basically, I tried to deep dive into everything that was new with these bundles. So I'm explaining to you guys what Complete 14 is, what's included, then I'm going to give you guys my opinions, and then my overall conclusion. So there's basically so many plugins within Complete 14 that I literally cannot tell you one by one what's in each bundle. So I'm going to give you the number of how many things are in it while showing it on the screen, and if you're interested in that, maybe pause it. I don't want to make the most boring video of all time, is basically what I'm saying. If you want to double check what you're getting in the bundle, make sure you check out their website. Okay, so first off, there's a Complete 14 Select version, the Standard version, the Ultimate, and the Collector's Edition. As you can see, 15,000 sounds, 43,000, 84,000, 141,000. Space, more space, a lot of space, lots of space. Now, with the Select version, you're getting 4 synthesizers, 8 sampled instruments, 4 effects, 2 percussion instruments, and 8 expansions. So you get some okay synthesizers like Massive, but I would say Massive is massively outdated. Nah, it's okay. I mean, you can still make some good sounds with it. The other synth that comes with is Monarch. It's a mono synth with analog modeling. It's monophonic, so it's going to be good for lead sounds, chord sounds, bass sounds. When I say chord, I mean you press one note and it plays a chord. It comes with some basic sampled instruments, nothing too crazy, like organs. It has 1 piano. Then the effects it comes with are okay, like basically compression, and then Faceless, ROM, Replica. Now the Standard version I think is the most attractive if you're a beat maker. And you get 15 synthesizers, as you can see, quite a few more. You get 37 sampled instruments, again, quite a few more. 9 percussion tools, 19 effects, and 38 expansions. Now it's worth mentioning that 16 of these expansions are going to be for Massive X. Now with this version, I think you're getting the best bang for your buck here. I would say this has a lot of the top rated pieces that you would probably use as a beat maker. It has 15 synths. You get a ton of sampled instruments, which is a huge step up from what you were getting before this. You're getting guitars, strings, more tailored instruments as well too, such as 40s, keys and drums, Empire breaks. You're also getting most of the high quality effects and expansions. Pretty much anything beyond this is mostly just going to be orchestral libraries or things you would use for scoring, minus a few things. Next, we're gonna talk about the Ultimate version, which is $11.99. Oh boy, that's a lot of money. So with this version, you're getting 21 orchestral instruments that you weren't getting in the other version. You're getting 18 synthesizers, 48 sampled instruments, 15 percussion tools, 31 effects, 65 expansions. I'm already getting tired of doing this. I'm regretting this review. I was regretting this review since I started doing it, and I'm really regretting it at this point. I think it's starting to get pretty hard to rationalize paying for this unless you are scoring for movies or TV shows or something. Or if you just have some sort of OCD complex where you need everything. Then lastly, we're going to talk about the Collector's Edition, aka I have way too much money and I need to do something with it. It's got 27 orchestral instruments, 18 synthesizers, 48 sampled instruments, 15 percussion tools, 31 effects, and then 103 expansions. It's basically too many sounds. That's the only way I can put it. This is just too many fucking sounds. I don't know if they ever really need to release Complete 15 at this point, because I think we have enough. But don't worry, I'm gonna get into some of the issues here in a bit. It's not really with the sounds though. It's more so with a few specific things within Complete. Some might say it's even incomplete. Thank you, I'll be here all night filming this stupid video. So if this wasn't overwhelming before this, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Clearly the two big differences here are the amount of orchestral instruments and the amount of expansions, because it's just one more synth and one more effect, but everything else is way more amped up. One thing I think that is worth noting is that you should keep in mind how much space all of this will take while deciding what bundle you are going to get if you do decide to get one. Now keep in mind, you don't have to install everything. You can pick and choose what you want to install. Also worth noting, they don't have a version with the hard drive that has everything on it like they used to. I'm guessing they couldn't work out the deal with Western Digital. Next, we'll be doing a deep dive into each individual plugin, well, new plugin, within the Complete 14. Oh boy, I'm excited. I don't think I missed any, but if I did, it's because there's literally 100 of them. I'm going to put KONTAKT 7 right at the front because that's kind of the gateway. Without that, we have nothing. So KONTAKT 7, the latest version of the world's favorite sampler. Their words, not mine. It has a brand new factory library, enhanced browsing, and improved instrument building technology. All of that sounds good, but where is the resizability at? And I should clarify here, you can resize it, but you can't resize what's inside of it. It kind of negates the point of being able to resize it. Now, the KONTAKT 7 stock library, I feel like it's completely pointless, at least when you have a listen to everything else that's included in the rest of, well, I'm assuming you're getting at least the standard version. With the select version, you don't even get the full version of KONTAKT. I made a beat out of stuff completely from KONTAKT 7 default library, and I wish I didn't. The UI is as clunky as it was in KONTAKT 6. It feels stable, but it doesn't feel fluid. You also can't launch an instrument from the library without opening just a preset. You have to pick a preset, which doesn't really matter. It's just something I've noticed. Overall, I don't think KONTAKT 7 is that much better than KONTAKT 6. I feel like they cut some corners on this one. I think they could have made it better. Next, we'll be talking about 40's very own drums and keys. Definitely has a lot of underwater type sounds. I think they call that filtering. It's definitely legit at creating that sort of down-tempo Drake sound. Definitely on point. You can really achieve that sound, but the question is who really wants to make that sound anymore? The good thing about that though is you could use this for other things as well too. I've found myself making some interesting, more chill type of beats with this that were like in a different direction. So I still found it really useful. Action Strings 2, it's strings, but with action. Dynamic phrases, 31 gigabytes. Not super bad compared to some of the other libraries in here. So this is a very powerful tool for someone composing music, especially someone who's not as experienced at it. You can write extremely realistic string compositions, and it'll help you do so either by giving you a realistic sound or by helping you write riffs. You can edit the riffs as well too, which makes it really nice. You can combine different pieces to make different phrases. You can export the MIDI too. You can change the different mic distances. It's got a lot of options. ASHLIGHT is definitely really atmospheric. It's very cinematic and dark sounding for a granular plugin. ASHLIGHT, they should have named this Ash Dark. It has a lot of boom sounds. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do with this, okay? It definitely has a few patches here and there that could be good for making beats if you'd like to. It's definitely really good for cinema. I think this is definitely a piece that helps round out the entire cinematic library of libraries that they have here. This one's definitely more of an avant-garde one. Okay, next we're going to talk about some of the Brainworks plugins here. BX Focusrite SC, BX Console In, BX CRISPYTUNER, and BX True Peak Limiter. The Focusrite console has a color scheme that looks terrible, but it's pretty easy to figure out what's going on by looking at it. It's also resizable, thankfully. The EQ sounds really colorful and the compression sounds really smooth. Every channel on an analog console sounds slightly different, and you're able to pick different channels in this plugin, and you can even pick it randomly. So overall, I do like this a lot. The console in, I hate the way this thing looks. If you thought the Focusrite was a little bit ugly, but you understood where everything was, the console in looks nicer, but it's fucking just nowhere near as intuitive. While the Focusrite was made to emulate the Focusrite console, the console in was made to recreate the sound of a Neve console. I actually think I like the sound of this one a bit more than the Focusrite console. This might be my favorite channel strip I've ever used, to be honest. I just need to get used to using it a lot more. You can definitely hear the TMT here. What is TMT, you may ask? Tolerance modeling technology. Every channel strip within an analog console sounds slightly different from each other, or even with any sort of analog piece of hardware due to the components. The slight variances make it just slightly different every time. So basically they figured out a way to add these analog imperfections into the digital domain. So they have it basically on all of their plugins. The True Peak Limiter actually seems really good. In my experience, it can get pretty loud before introducing distortion. It also has a nice layout for metering with the LUFS, RMS, RMS and dynamic range all right next to each other. It also seems to preserve transients and the low end very well compared to some other limiters I've used in the past. And the tone options are pretty sweet too. CRISPYTUNER is a pitch correction suite that has 3 modes: simple, advanced, and graphical, basically combining all types of pitch correction into one place. If you just need some slight real-time correction, you can do that. If you need to get more in depth like you can with Melodyne, you can also do that. It also includes modes for live as well as mixing, depending on how fast you need the latency to be. It's definitely a really powerful tool to be included in the bundle. It negates the need to purchase Auto-Tune or Melodyne, which are expensive tools. It also gives you the flexibility of different workflows and complexity simultaneously. Oberhausen is a recreation of a 70s analog synth legend. That's the one. Got full polyphony of up to 32 voices. It has TMT. Great sounding synth, one of my favorites. Really good sounding presets for the most part. It's not the most complex functionally. Basic oscillators and modulation, no wavetables. If we can get a synth like this but with wavetables, actually had quite a bit of experience with this one before Komplete 14 came out. They were giving it away for free at one point. I'm not sure why they were doing that. This seems a little good to be given away for free, but whatever. Definitely has a pretty realistic analog sound to it. Basically, each voice of the synth has some slight variation to it. It does feature FM and a mod matrix. Next up, Choir Omnia. It's got the sound of a 40-piece vocal ensemble. It's got soprano, alto, tenor, and bass sections. You can build phrases and melodies with 16 different syllables in various articulations. It's very similar to action strings in the way that it works. Maybe slightly different though, because you have syllables also, plus voice. Very realistic sounding choir. This one is quite a bit bigger than some of the other libraries. It has key switches that let you change syllables on the fly. It has pre-constructed phrases too. It sounds very natural transitioning between notes. It's definitely worth the 70 gigabytes if you need an expansive and detailed choir sound. Next up, we're talking about DEFT lines. Have you heard enough UK drill? What's that, yes? Sorry to tell you this. Now it's cool how they represented both sides of drill in this. It's not really providing anything too new sounding. It really just fits the shoe pretty well, I would say. Definitely as good as any other drill sounds I've heard in the past, except they're all combined into one spot. It was $25 originally at the time of me writing this. I think it might be $50 now. So if you make drill, this might be one worth getting. If you're gonna buy a specific library by itself, or if you're like trying to figure out which bundle you would get. Next up, we're talking about Empire Breaks. So this is kind of what it sounds like. It's got a great legit sound to it. I love the way they flow together. You can play it as patterns, or you can play the individual sounds and make your own pattern. You can combine patterns, however you want to do it. I think the tones are really good in it. I kind of wish there were more, to be honest. Definitely seems like they went for quality over quantity with this one, which I'm okay with because these are really high quality. Wouldn't mind having a couple more of these. Yo man, you got any more of those Empire Breaks? All right, next we'll be talking about GLAZE. This one's gonna be your go-to for vocal chops or background vocals that are not quite choir sounding, but not quite the types of vocals that have words in them. If you need background singing in your beat, this is a great affordable way to go. Obviously there aren't any words in it, and I don't have many words for it either, but it's pretty good. Ignition keys, it's keys. This is going to be your go-to for keys, it's keys. It's definitely stuff you'd use in a pop production or any sort of high quality production. You could really probably use it for anything except for something lo-fi, I guess, but even in that case, you could make it sound lo-fi. I like how everything from the Play series lets you change out half of the sound, or the full sound if you want, making it a bit deeper than just a bunch of presets. It's keys. Next, we'll be talking about KNIFONIUM. I always thought this one had a really strange name, but it actually has tolerance modeling technology in it, so it's automatically good. Definitely has some great presets, some bad presets, some okay presets. Seems pretty capable in terms of synthesis. Obviously, I don't like this UI as much as something like Vital, but it definitely also simulates that sort of hardware look to it as well. The sound of it is definitely pretty sweet. Definitely retains the warmth and variation like OBERHAUSEN does. The KONTAKT Factory Library 2, that goes in the trash. LOFI AF. It's LOFI AF. It's an interesting concept. It combines like kind of what RC20 does, kind of what Digitalis does, and also convolution at the same time. It doesn't do as well as what these individual plugins would do by themselves. Like I'd much rather use Digitalis and RC20, but for me personally, I like using one or the other. I don't like using them combined. The one thing I do find good about this though is the convolution. And you can change the different mics or speakers and cabinets that you're using. Now, obviously, there are a variety of ways to set this. This is just how I set it in this particular instance. One feature I really like about this is the ability to rearrange the chain of modules. Next, we'll be talking about Lores. It's an augmented orchestral library. Basically, it combines orchestral sounds with other sounds, and you can layer together 3 different ones. Could be useful while composing if you're trying to get more of a characteristic sound instead of like just a typical string or something. I don't really find it to be something I use too much in beat making personally, but that's kind of the same thing with all orchestral sounds. I don't know if this one's personally worth the 70 gigs for me, so into the trash it goes. Next we'll be talking about Melted Vibes. It's got detuned melodies and chords. The only thing is they are really detuned out of the box, like borderline unusable. Thankfully though, you can dial that back. The way you would tweak it is with the melt knob. Melt is obviously detuned, but a catchier way, I guess, of saying that. I don't know, I thought detune was pretty catchy. One thing I will say about the presets is the guitars in this sound nothing like real guitars. There's definitely far better options for guitars than the rest of Komplete. I have no idea how these guitar sounds got past quality control. You would think someone would be like, maybe we shouldn't put these in here. We got plenty of other really good guitar sounds. Let's not clog this up. I would say the lead and synth sounds are the main show here. Ozone 10. Despite what I might say or what other people might say, Ozone 10 is a pretty good all-in-one mastering suite. The AI can provide you with a pretty decent starting point. It's not always 100% correct. It's basically never 100% correct. But if you know what you're doing, you can kind of tweak it from there. If you don't know what you're doing, you could probably learn enough to figure out how to fix it from there and get it just right. It's definitely more powerful and better sounding than a stock limiter. The only things I aren't really getting with the standard version are the impact, the stabilizer, the master rebalance, the low-end focus. I kind of feel like the low-end focus isn't the greatest thing anyways. I don't know, I never really liked that one. You also don't get the separated single plugins in this version either. You know, if you have a bad computer, you may struggle to run this. Next, we're talking about PLAYBOX. Probably one of my favorites in this whole thing. This is like what Sandbox wish it could be. Basically, it has over 200 chord sets in it that can be randomized and tweaked. It has 900 samples, and you basically can randomize them together, the chord sets and the samples. You can also load in sounds from your library. I feel like this one's definitely pretty underrated. I hear people talk about it here and there, but it's pretty game changing. Like, you don't really have to know what you're doing at all to make something pretty sick with this. It definitely reminds me of like sort of like an Eskimo sound. The artist, it like really combines like an electronic and organic sound, I feel like. It definitely feels like cheating a bit, so I don't like using it all the time. Plus it has sort of a specific sound to it, at least like if you're using the sounds that come with it. This is like Sandbox's older brother that has his shit together and wasn't prematurely born. Piano colors, kind of like an augmented piano. Has a lot of abnormal piano sounds. You can pick different grand piano articulations. You can combine it with modulations and particles. water particles. I feel like the name isn't as indicative of how strange these piano sounds are. They probably should have named it Avante-garde pianos. Is that Spanish? This guy's speaking Spanish. All the guitars I basically combined all together. They all do the same thing. They play guitars, they have phrases. It's basically just different guitars in each library. You can play a full riff, or you can just play it with one pitch. You can also change the pitch with the riff, obviously, though. These are definitely really realistic sounding. I mean, they are real. They were real at one point. They can definitely be used to write some great riffs. Soul Sessions. Come on, what do you think it's gonna be? Sounds are pretty hit or miss for me on this one. Some of these synth sounds don't make a lot of sense in this library. The instruments sound pretty good though. If you know how to make soul music, this is definitely capable. Could be useful for a variety of other genres as well too. The organs sound good, the guitars sound decent, but if you really want guitar, just go to the last one. SEQUIS, or is it SEQUIS? I don't know. So this one's pretty similar to Action Strings in the way that it works, but this one has much more interesting sounds with it. It has riffs and patterns that you play and you can kind of change a bit. This one sounds quite a bit more unique though than Action Strings, because, you know, Action Strings it's just strings. Sometimes it'll have more than one instrument or layer within a patch, providing a very full sound. It's got a large variety of presets, including bass lines, bowed instruments, flutes, keys and mallets, percussion, plucked, textures, and vocals. They're all very high quality and there's a lot of depth to them. Okay, Spotlight Collection East Asia. Oh my god, there's so many of these fucking things. So this has Chinese, Japanese, and Korean instruments. This one is really good because it'll help you expand beyond your normal sound palette unless you live in these areas and you're, you know, using these instruments in reality. It has percussion and melody instruments. It has rhythms and riffs that you can play and chop up. You can also change the scale that it's playing in, which is very useful. It'd be sick if everything in KONTAKT had this. Changing the scale reforms the riff to fit the adjusted scale. Also, everything is divided by the country of origin in the old browser. The sounds are very high quality sounding as well too. I'm pretty impressed. Next up, we got Stacks. It's supposed to be like hip-hop sample sounding. Very vintage sounding without sounding overly damaged, in my opinion. Definitely some legit keys for hip-hop. Also could be useful for like a Boards of Canada sound as well too. The sounds are very warm, often pretty wobbly. A decent amount of noise, but not an overwhelming amount. It only has one guitar patch, but it is a pretty cool sounding guitar, I guess. Not sure what they're going for exactly with the bass patches on this one. Seems kind of all over the place. And that's it for all the new libraries and synths and effects. So you may think this is a lot of things you're getting here, and the crazy thing is you're getting even more than all of this. Just be aware though, there's other things in this as well too. Guitar rig, drum libraries, pianos, electric pianos, organs, and more. Like I said, I can't go into all those as well too, otherwise this would be like a 1 hour plus video. And at this point, I kind of just want to fuck off with this project already. I don't want to do this review anymore. All right, now we're going to talk really quickly about Komplete Control. Now I'm not going to talk about the keyboard here because I don't have one, but we are going to talk about the software, which is something you could use without it. Now this allows you to search through all your different native instrument plugins and libraries and anything with a NKS format to find presets or to create chains with. This could be useful if you want to look through a variety of plugins all at once to find presets with a specific name. Like let's say you're trying to find different Hoover synths and compare which one you want to use for this track you're working on. This could be really useful in that case. It'd be great if the NKS format worked with every plugin out of the box, but you know, maybe we're asking for a lot here. It does work with quite a few though, and you can get it to work with some other ones. Okay, so my overall impression of Komplete 14. So while KONTAKT 7 was really underwhelming and there's definitely some problems with it, I think the sounds of Komplete 14 and the amount of sounds you're getting for the price tag is pretty insane nonetheless. The only one I think that isn't worth the money is the Select version. And that's because they've only selected the biggest pieces of crap to give to you, for the most part. Anything beyond the standard version is not really necessary for someone who doesn't do orchestral music, cinematic scoring type shit, or if you have some sort of fetish for orchestral instruments. No judgments here, no judgments here. Overall, I don't really know what to rate this score-wise. Sorry to let you guys down here, but I don't know, because there's too many variables within this. One person give this a 10 out of 10 if they really like orchestral instruments. Like this is making it way easier than before to write insane compositions. But someone who was really looking for updates on KONTAKT, you know, they may score this like a 4 out of 10 or something, or a 5 out of 10. But I just feel like there's so many moving pieces within this, I actually can't accurately give it a score. I thought the orchestral instruments were insane, but I also don't really do that kind of stuff, so I don't know when I would ever use it. And then other things like Empire Breaks, I thought were like fucking dope. 40's very own stuff, that was pretty good. The guitars, great. Those aren't new things though. There's just so many different moving pieces in this. So, you know, I'm gonna give it, how the fuck do we score that out of 10? Let me know what you guys would score this bundle down in the comments. What do you guys think of Komplete 14? Have you bought it? Is there an alternative? I don't think there's a fucking alternative to this. No one dares make this. Make sure to check out my second channel if you haven't. Make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 25,000 by the end of the year. Will we do it? I don't know. It's not looking good at the moment. The worst thing you can be is wrong on the internet. Worst things you can be on the internet. Wrong, pedophile, almost wrong, murderer.
Incorporated.